The air was thick with tension as the guests shuffled into the grand hall, their laughter echoing off the polished marble floors. At the center of it all, a wedding reception was unfolding, but for Lila, it felt like a prison. She stood near the entrance, her heart pounding like the distant drums of a battalion. Her father's laughter rang out, a sharp contrast to the storm brewing inside her. She couldn't hack military life, he had exclaimed, and the guests erupted in a chorus of chuckles. Lila's face flushed. Memories of her time in basic training rushed back, early morning runs, the stinging reprimands from her sergeant, and the day she faltered during a crucial drill. The humiliation stung like a bee, and she felt the weight of judgment in her father's words. Just as she turned to escape the laughter, she caught sight of the groom, Marcus, dressed in his crisp uniform, a proud salute aimed directly at her. The room went silent. All eyes were on them, and in that moment, Lila felt exposed, as if her heart had been laid bare for everyone to see. She knew she needed to say something, to reclaim her dignity, but the words caught in her throat. Instead, she turned away, her breath quickening, and fled into the night. The door slammed behind her, leaving the laughter behind, but the echo of her father's words lingered like smoke in her mind. 3 months earlier, Lila stood at the edge of Fort Carson, the expansive training grounds sprawling out before her. The sun rose over the mountains, casting a golden hue on the barracks and the soldiers hustling to prepare for the day. This was her dream, yet the reality felt daunting. She had always wanted to prove herself, to show her father that she was more than just his little girl. "Lila!" A voice pulled her from her thoughts. It was Sergeant Hayes, barking orders as usual. She snapped to attention, her heart racing. Hayes was unlike anyone she had ever met, tough as nails, but with a glimmer of understanding buried beneath his hard exterior. "You think this is a joke? Get in line!" Lila's stomach twisted as she fell in step with her fellow recruits. They were a mix of backgrounds, all striving for the same goal, yet she felt like an outsider. The first day was a whirlwind of drills, push-ups, and the constant pressure to perform. Just as she started to settle in, a voice from behind broke through her concentration. "Why are you even here, Princess?" It was Sarah, a recruit who seemed to thrive on intimidation. The others snickered, and Lila's cheeks burned. She clenched her fists, vowing not to let them see her cry. But Sarah's words echoed in her mind, planting seeds of doubt that would grow like weeds. Days turned into weeks, and Lila fought through the grueling training. Each morning she woke before dawn, the cold air nipping at her skin as she laced up her boots. She pushed herself harder, desperate to silence the whispers of inadequacy. But late at night, in the quiet of her bunk, the tears would come, silent and bitter. "Why do you care so much?" her friend Jess asked one evening as they lay in their bunks, the faint sounds of the barracks surrounding them. "You're doing great. Just keep your head down." But Lila couldn't shake the feeling that she was a fraud. She remembered her father's proud smile when he first learned she'd enlisted. "Just like your old man," he had said, puffing out his chest. Yet every time she stumbled, she felt that pride slip away, like sand through her fingers. The breaking point came one fateful morning during a live-fire exercise. Lila had always been afraid of the guns, the power they held. As she fumbled with her weapon, panic surged through her. In that moment of hesitation, Sergeant Hayes's voice cut through the chaos. "Lila, focus!" She pulled the trigger, but instead of hitting the target, her shot went wild. The sound shattered her confidence, and laughter rippled through the training group. "Nice shot, Princess," Sarah taunted, and Lila's heart sank. She felt as if a spotlight had been turned on her, exposing her to the ridicule of her peers. After that day, Lila withdrew further into herself, the weight of failure resting heavy on her shoulders. The training became a blur of shame and exhaustion. She sought solace in the few moments she could share with Marcus, the handsome mechanic who worked on the base. He had a way of making her laugh, of reminding her that she was still human beneath the uniform. One evening, as they walked along the dusty paths of the base, Marcus turned to her, concern etched on his face. "You're not yourself, Lila. What's going on?" "I can't do this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not cut out for military life." "Don't say that. You're stronger than you think," he replied, but his words felt like a flimsy bandage on a deep wound. The truth was, Lila was terrified of disappointing everyone, her father, her friends, and herself. The next day, in the middle of a grueling obstacle course, she faltered again. This time, the embarrassment was overwhelming as her fellow recruits watched her struggle. The laughter echoed in her ears, and she felt her spirit crack. In that moment, she made a choice. She would leave. Lila stood outside the command building, her heart racing as she clutched the papers that would end her military journey. The sky was a dull gray, matching the storm brewing inside her. She thought of her father's laughter, the way it felt like a blade. "I can't go back to that," she whispered to herself. Just as she was about to turn away, a voice stopped her. "You can't quit, Lila." It was Sergeant Hayes, his expression serious. "You have what it takes, but you need to believe it." Anger flared within her. "You don't understand. I'm not cut out for this." "Maybe not yet, but you can be. You're here for a reason." His words hung in the air, and for the first time, Lila felt a flicker of hope. She hesitated, torn between the comfort of giving up and the challenge of pushing forward. That night, she lay awake in her bunk, the weight of her decision pressing down on her. The thought of returning home to her father's laughter filled her with dread. But as dawn broke, illuminating the barracks, Lila made a choice. She would fight, not just for herself, but for her place in this world. With renewed determination, Lila threw herself into her training. Each day was a battle, but she learned to embrace the pain, to transform it into strength. She found solace in the camaraderie of her fellow recruits, and slowly the laughter became less about ridicule and more about support. "Nice job, Lila," Jess cheered after she completed the obstacle course without faltering. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. Lila beamed, the weight of doubt lifting just a little. As weeks passed, her confidence grew. She became a fierce competitor, pushing herself to the limits. The drills that once terrified her now fueled her fire. She found a rhythm, a flow that transformed her fears into power. But the shadows of her past lingered. One night, as Lila trained under the stars, she caught sight of her father's face in her mind, disappointment etched on it. The image haunted her. She wanted to prove she could stand tall, that she belonged here. The day of the final training exercise arrived, a grueling test of everything they had learned. The sun blazed high, casting long shadows across the rugged terrain of Fort Carson. Lila stood at the starting line, her heart pounding as she faced the daunting course ahead. This was her moment to shine, to prove to herself and everyone else that she belonged. "Listen up," Sergeant Hayes barked, his voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "This is not just a test of physical strength. It's a test of mental resilience. Keep your heads in the game." As the horn blew, Lila surged forward, adrenaline coursing through her veins. The course was a series of obstacles, walls to climb, mud pits to crawl through, and targets to hit. She felt the rush of competition, the thrill of pushing herself beyond her limits. With each challenge, her confidence swelled. She climbed the wall, her hands gripping the rough surface as she pulled herself up, her muscles screaming in protest. She jumped into the mud pit, the cold water splashing around her, soaking her uniform. But she didn't care. She was alive, fighting for her place. As she reached the final target, she took a deep breath, steadying her shaking hands. With a loud crack, she fired her weapon, hitting the bullseye. The roar of cheers erupted around her, and for the first time, she felt the warmth of acceptance. She was no longer just Lila. She was a soldier. After the exercise, the atmosphere was electric. Lila basked in the glow of her accomplishment, surrounded by her fellow recruits who celebrated their victories. But amidst the joy, doubt still flickered in the back of her mind, especially as she saw Sarah lurking nearby, her expression dark. "You think you're something now, don't you?" Sarah sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "Just because you hit one target doesn't mean you're a soldier." Lila's heart sank. "I'm not trying to compete with anyone. I'm just trying to be better." "Better? You're still just a princess playing dress-up." Sarah's words cut deep, and Lila felt the old insecurities creeping back in. But this time, she stood her ground. "I'm here, aren't I? I've earned my place," she shot back, her voice steady. The confrontation drew the attention of their peers, and Lila's heart raced. This was her moment to stand tall, to show that she wouldn't back down. Sarah's smirk faltered slightly, and for a brief moment, Lila saw a flicker of fear in her eyes. But before she could say anything else, Sergeant Hayes stepped in, breaking the tension. "Enough! You're all soldiers now. Act like it." As the crowd dispersed, Lila felt a surge of pride. She had faced her fears and refused to let them control her. But as she walked away, the weight of her father's laughter echoed in her mind, a reminder of the stakes. The following week brought a sudden storm, both in the skies and within Lila's heart. As rain poured down, the training grounds became a muddy battleground. The exercises continued, but the chaos outside only amplified the pressure. Lila fought against the elements, each drop of rain feeling like a reminder of her struggle. Then came the phone call that shattered her hard-earned peace. It was her father, his voice shaky on the other end. "Lila, we need to talk." She felt a chill run down her spine. "What's wrong?" "It's your mother. She's in the hospital," he said, the words heavy with dread. "It doesn't look good." Panic surged through her. "I'll come home." "No, you need to stay. You're on the verge of graduating." The decision tore at her. She felt the weight of loyalty pulling her toward her family, but the fear of letting down her comrades weighed just as heavily. That evening, she stood under the pouring rain, the world around her a blur of gray. As she faced the storm, uncertainty gripped her. "Why do I have to choose?" she whispered into the wind. She wanted to fight for her mother, but she also wanted to prove herself. Torn between duty and love, Lila felt the tide of her emotions swell, threatening to drown her. The next morning, Lila made her choice. She packed her bags, determination coursing through her veins. As she stepped onto the bus heading home, She felt the weight of her decision settle around her like armor. She would face her father, confront the laughter that had haunted her, and be there for her mother. When she arrived at the hospital, the sterile smell of antiseptic hit her like a wall. Her father stood by her mother's bedside, his face a mask of worry. The sight broke her heart. "Dad," she whispered, rushing to his side. He looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Lila? I thought you were training." "I came home," she said, her voice steady. "I'm here." As her mother opened her eyes, Lila felt a rush of relief. "You came, sweetheart," her mother whispered, tears glistening in her eyes. In that moment, Lila understood the true meaning of strength. It wasn't just about proving herself in the military. It was about being there for those she loved. She held her mother's hand tightly, feeling the warmth and the bond that had always been stronger than any uniform. Later, as they sat together in the hospital room, her father turned to her, his expression softening. "I'm proud of you, Lila. You've grown so much." The weight of his words broke the dam within her. "I wanted to prove I could do it, Dad. I wanted you to be proud." He nodded, shame mixing with pride in his eyes. "You've always been my daughter, no matter what. It's not about the uniform. It's about who you are inside." As tears streamed down Lila's face, she realized that she didn't have to choose between her dreams and her family. They could coexist. She could be a soldier and still be a daughter, a friend, a person who loved deeply. The road ahead would be challenging, but Lila was ready to face it all. With her family beside her, she felt the strength to rise again, not just as a soldier, but as a woman who had learned that true power came from love, resilience, and the ability to stand tall in the face of adversity. Together, they would weather any storm